And you're welcome. It's time to do the papers this morning. Thank you very much for sticking with us until now. We've got a couple of papers for you: The Punch, The Guardian, The Vanguard, and of course the Daily Trust newspaper. And we're going to be looking at all these headlines. I'm not doing it alone. Of course, I have Titi. Thank you very much. Let's start with The Punch newspaper. Would you like to go first?
The Punch. If we're starting with The Punch, it says this Monday, 29th of January, kidnapping epidemic, tracking device shortage hindering police probes, say sources. Death of tracking devices causes delays in investigations. Arrest of abductors, says investigators. Well, technology does have its challenges, but hopefully we'll figure out a way to overcome them soon enough. Top left there, it says Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, yet to exit formally, say ECOWAS. Federal government appoints 6 governors to minimum wage panel. It says here, IRS demands Achimugu's tax return after lavish birthday. Is that becoming a thing?
Don't show yourselves. That's all I'm going to say.
That is actually a conversation.
We actually had this issue about 3 or 4 years ago where people who had these lavish lifestyles were being targeted by the IRS. But then again, that is their job to actually check you, you know, if you are remitted and all of that. But then again, this just goes to everybody out there. Be careful. I wanted to touch on something real quick, and that's the Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger exit from ECOWAS, although not yet official. Now, there are certain sanctions that the West African states have put on these countries. And in reference to Nigeria and the fact that we also have some of these sanctions against maybe Niger and Burkina Faso, especially Niger, where we've cut out power, there are economic factors that also affect our economy as well.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, we used to provide power. We used to get something back for that. So imagine how much revenue we've also cut by losing that relationship. So they're not the only ones suffering. We also are as well. Very unfortunate
But there obviously have to be so many terms that... So even when you're cutting any business relationship, there have to be some terms that have to be met before you can completely sever ties. So these might be factors that will make them possibly think about it first before they completely sever ties. But I'm hoping that they can come to some kind of level playing ground where they decide against it. Because as Africans, West Africans, you know, I think we're stronger together than apart.
Yeah, we'll see this across all the papers that we go through. But one thing that I really wanted us to touch on again was that the picture photo story here.
Yes. It is NDLEA declares a beauty queen not wanted, nabs Brazil returnee. Now, there's definitely more on that story on page 4. We are definitely watching that story as well.
Watching that story and also noting that this is going to continue to get worse because of the economic situation. Everything seems to be tied into the economic situation of Nigeria right now. Because Nigeria is happening to everybody. Can we move on now to The Punch? Sorry, to The Guardian.
The Guardian newspaper here has this headline. It says here, trade security concerns as Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso exit ECOWAS. On the coup fallouts there. Then, of course, the infographic, well, not really an infographic, just a graphic right there with all the presidents or the heads of state in tow. It says, also on the cover of The Guardian, it says, account for over 40 trillion naira allocations to FCT councils, Serap tells governors. US-based professor shot dead in Osun after party, mob kills gunman. Petro trading lifts NNPC's profit to $2.7 billion. Saudi Aramco declares $161 billion. Beware, COVID infections, fatalities still on the prowl. NRC announces return of Kano-Lagos train service.
Don't know if to be happy or concerned about that one, the resumption of that service, because we had plenty of insecurity along that corridor, the Lagos-Kano one. I don't know if those have been attended to. It's the best way to actually get around now, especially with all the increase in fuel prices and all the trains should actually serve to help commuters get to places on time, in quotes, and also at better cost. We hope that these issues that have been nagging that corridor have been attended to, and so we can see a return to normalcy when it comes to...
I was looking at that COVID story there. There's a news analysis on page 4. I would really be interested in seeing that analysis, because there was a time, was it in November, in November, it just did seem like everybody was coming down with something, you know, and everyone was taking medication and acting like everything is fine. But we've sort of just let go of all our hygiene practices.
Well, I wouldn't say absolutely. I think some
a lot of people have.
A lot of people might have, but then again,
we're still shaking hands, hugging, and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should think about the distancing thing one more time.
Perhaps maybe just a little bit, you know, consideration, because it never really went away.
Yeah.
We kind of like perhaps got immune, better immunity, especially with after getting the vaccines and all, but it's actually still out there. Just note, it's just like the common cold.
Goodness.
Moving on to the Vanguard now. I'm going to take this one now. Big story here, as usual, from other papers. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger pull out of ECOWAS. We're ready for a negotiation solution, says ECOWAS Commission, and Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger on suspension from ECOWAS presidency. Says it's a serious diplomatic meltdown. Note how they are ready for negotiations because, like I said from before, there are trade issues that concern not only the parties that are being sanctioned, but also the parties that are giving these sanctions.
There are also, you know, a lot of conspiracy theories about what it means to break up West Africa. There was a time we were considering having a West African currency, and now you're seeing all sorts of, you know, things trying to divide this particular unit of nations. And the truth is, we heard of Brexit and what Brexit did to the UK, and I don't think they've recovered from that. And Africa has always needed a little more support. Adding more countries would have probably been better than losing a few. There are definitely conversations around that, and we'll be watching that story. There
are more headlines here. FG inaugurates minimum wage committee tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And corrupt governance responsible for insecurity, banditry in the north, says the VP Chatima. At the very bottom of the Vanguard, Forex crisis, high import duty, depressed vehicle, other imports. Yes, we have talked about this many times. Our imports are not like they used to be. Car dealers have resorted to buying already used cars here in Nigeria to be able to make sales and no longer imported cars. When was the last time you saw a fairly used car from abroad? Like a purchase of a fairly used car from abroad?
A fairly used...
well, let's use the word.
They're definitely getting a lot more expensive.
Exactly.
And most of the reasons why those cars are even sent in is because they were probably on a higher fuel consumption level for that country anyway. So people are making adjustments here on this side of the pond. And even humans, you know, considered, you know, a vehicle with less fuel consumption.
Absolutely. And that has saved my life in the past few months. I don't know what I'd have been doing if I was still using that behemoth. In any case, we had the Daily Trust, but there's only one variance in headline, and that's war on Gaza, children paying highest price. But that's all we can take for the papers this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got more inside of Wake Up Nigeria, where Winfrey is waiting in the wings. No, actually, she's waiting in the kitchen with our chef, and we're wondering what we're having for breakfast this morning. What are we having for breakfast, Winfrey?